Hyperbloom is one of the greatest teams you can have access to as a free-to-play player when starting out in Genshin Impact. From Hyperbloom itself as a reaction to the best artifact and character setups, we're going to cover everything you need to know to make your first free-to-play Hyperbloom team, including substitute characters as well as artifact builds to get that team off of the ground. Traditionally, Hyperbloom is made up of an Electro character, a Hydro character, and a Dendro character. Using the Dendro and Hydro characters to generate Dendro cores, and using your Electro character to detonate the cores for the Hyperbloom reaction. But if that small breakdown is just a little bit too much for your needs and your wants of information, basically use your Hydro and Dendro appliers to generate as many cores as possible and then detonate them with Kuki Shinobu. Regardless of which Hydro and Dendro characters you are using to generate the cores, they won't need Elemental Mastery. The only Elemental Mastery you will need in this team is on Kuki Shinobu, which is going to be the detonator of these cores. And so only Kuki Shinobu's Elemental Mastery is factored into the Hyperbloom reaction damage. We won't go into builds for every single character in a Hyperbloom team, as those characters are still going to use the build that that character would typically use. You're still going to be Xingqiu like a Xingqiu would be built. Same thing for Yaoyao, Nahida, Kokomi, etc. As far as talent priority goes for Kuki Shinobu, there actually really isn't one here. You could invest a little bit into her elemental skill if you desire. This will give you a slight increase into the healing that you're going to receive from Sanctifying Ring. You want to get a little bit of extra damage. You can also level up her elemental burst, although that is typically something that you want to invest in for an aggravate Kuki Shinobu. As far as artifacts and stats to prioritize, we are looking for Elemental Mastery on our Sands, as well as our Goblet and our Circlet for the main stat. Substats, we're looking for more Elemental Mastery on our Flower, as well as our Feather. Energy Recharge isn't a big deal on Kuki Shinobu, as her Elemental Burst doesn't make a significant increase in damage per rotation. If you get a little bit of HP percent as a substat, that's a bonus, but honestly, it's not a mainstay or must-have. This is why she's pretty easy to build and put together, and why I call her a low investment character. As far as artifact sets go, the Flower of Paradise Lost set is going to be her best set, with the 4-piece increasing the Hyperbloom damage that you do every time you do a Hyperbloom reaction. However, this artifact domain isn't typically something worth farming if you're not looking for the Animo set that comes with it. So if you have access to something like the Gilded Dream set, feel free to use that instead, as it will give you a large amount of elemental mastery. If you don't have 4 pieces of the Gilded Dream set, try to get 2 pieces of the Gilded Dreams here and then match it with 2 pieces of the Wanderer set. This is something that you can gain access to from your weekly bosses and world bosses, and the 2-piece here is also going to give you extra elemental mastery. If you're trying to piece this together for the first time, you don't have any of these sets, just try to get as much elemental mastery as possible, as that is going to be the driving force and damage behind this build. And continuing with our low investment build, the weapon selection for Kuki Shinobu is very easy as well. Whatever you have access to with the highest elemental mastery is something you should aim for. If you have the Moonlight Sword, this will give you a little bit of energy recharge for the rest of your party, but it's nothing super significant, as this is giving me about 10% energy recharge for the other members of my party. We also have access to the craftable Iron Sting, or if you're around for the big Flower Umbrella, you can use that as well. Just look for whatever weapon you have access to with the highest amount of elemental mastery and put that on your Kuki Shinobu. Now, I did say we weren't going to go over every character build for this video, as those characters are typically built the same way, but your Dendro character is going to want to have access to the Deepwood Memory set. Someone should be wearing this in the team for the 4-piece set bonus. This is going to reduce the enemy's resistance to Dendro by 30% for 8 seconds when they deal damage with their elemental skills or elemental bursts. As Hyperbloom does do Dendro damage, this will increase the damage that your Kuki Shinobu is doing when she activates the Hyperblooms on the enemies. And if you don't have these exact characters, don't worry, just fall back to the basic plan. Remember, your team's going to be made up of an Electro character with elemental mastery. This is going to be your detonator. It does not have to be Kuki Shinobu. Your other 3 character slots will be a mix of either 2 Dendro and 1 Hydro, or 1 Hydro and 2 Dendro characters. Which way you decide to split these in your 2-1 split is going to be dependent on which characters you have access to on your account. If you're lacking a Dendro character that can facilitate applying Dendro a high amount of time by themselves, then you can use 2 Dendro characters. The same goes true for a Hydro character. If you don't have a Hydro character that can apply a ton of Hydro, then you can feel free to use 2 Hydro characters here. As a new player, if you're lacking Nahida, you will probably opt to go for 2 Dendro characters and 1 Hydro character. When looking for Dendro 4-star characters as a way to supplement your team, Yaoyao is a fantastic 4-star option, as she's able to heal your team and also also apply a significant amount of Dendro to your enemies around you. Baizu's an upgraded, updated 5-star healer Dendro option if you're looking for a Dendro character who can also heal and provide Dendro application for your team. Other powerful Dendro applicators you can utilize in your team involve someone like Karara or even Koli as 4 stars, whereas the 5-star Dendro character Tignari is available for summoning on the permanent banner, so maybe you'll luck into him as well. And don't count out the Dendro main character, as they are also incredibly powerful. For Hydro characters, Xingqiu is an incredibly powerful 4-star ally, as he allows you to not only apply a ton of Hydro with his elemental burst, but also prevents your characters from taking too much damage with his damage reduction from his fatal rain screen, swords, as well as a slight amount of healing due to hydropathic. Barbara could be a fantastic 4-star Hydro applicator, as she will fulfill the healer role for your team, and being a catalyst character, she also offers the ability for you to apply Hydro to enemies around her with her normal attacks, as well as the Hydro aura from Let the Show Begin. You can also use her very powerful charge attack to apply Hydro element in an AoE that ignores the typical internal cooldown restrictions. Candace is another available 4-star character that can imbue your allies with the Hydro element, allowing them to also further increase the application of Hydro to your enemies. And lucky for you, Hydro being one of the best and most flexible elements in Genshin Impact offers even more characters for you to play around with. Furina offers amazing buffs to your damage, as well as applying Hydro and even some healing capabilities. Neuvillette is a fantastic burst damage character. Kokomi can be an excellent healer for you. Yaoyao can be an on-field Hydro applicator. Same with the likes of Tartaglia and even access to Mona. Being a catalyst character can even work here as well. Alternative Hydro characters you can use in your Hyperbloom team that are brand new in 2024 are going to be Sijwin as well as Mualani. As with every other Hydro character in a Hyperbloom team, you don't need to worry about building them specifically for your Hyperbloom setup. You can use their traditional DPS builds or support builds for these Hydro characters. If you don't own Kuki Shinobu as your Electro applicator for this Hyperbloom team, you can use someone like Raiden Shogun or Chloronide for your Electro applicator. You can even try out someone like Yaimiko using her charge attacks to detonate the Dendro cores, or even someone like Dori to detonate these cores as well. Regardless of which Hyperbloom character you're using as your Electro applicator, make sure you use the same Hyperbloom artifact setup that you would on your Kuki Shinobu. Now, the first site for this team, we're not bringing a ranged character for the Drake, which is a bad idea. But if your other team is fast enough, you can still max star the floor by just destroying it when it lands. Is that the optimal way to do it? No. But there's a lot of things you guys can do to make sure that you have more than enough time. More than enough time to get in there and destroy the Drake with this sort of team. You could swap in a character for Fischl if you don't want to use Kuki Shinobi. If you have Yelan, that is an amazing thing that you could do as well. But traditionally in this team, we're just applying as much Dendro and Hydro as possible and deleting these cores with Kuki Shinobi. Make sure we always try to get an elemental reaction up with Candace, because she is in the instructor set, so that is always a big plus for us. A little bit of reaction there. We'll reapply this, throw this up, a little bit of punchy punch, detonate them again. Fell a little low there, but we're going to be able to regenerate our HP in the second chamber there pretty easily. So this is where you would want to traditionally bring a ranged character to bring this enemy down, but you're still able to damage him while in the air with Xingqiu swords and our favorite girl, Nahida. Is it a lot of damage? No, but it's enough to make him rethink his life here and just dodge all that. Just throw the Hyperblooms at him, regenerate some HP. If his tail's on the ground like that, you can just barely hit it with Xingqiu sword. And this is a slower method for sure, and is not recommended. It's far easier to use another character. Get in there, brother. Come on down. Hit the tail, hit the tail. His Dendro res went up though, and now he's landed, and we're just going to try with all of our might to take this guy out as fast as possible. Ignoring mechanics. We don't care about mechanics. We're just here to do as much damage as humanly possible. Let's get some swords in here. Pretty fairly straightforward. More Hyperbloom. Ow. And he's gone. Now this should be probably the easiest chamber for this team. We're going to be spamming all of these different reactions that this boss hates. So we're good to go here. Just lay it on and don't let up. Reaction this man. And away we go. The man's favorite reactions are here. Get him in. Kuki Shinobu, re-up. Come on, let's go. Boom, bop. A little bit of friendly action here. Okay. Bop, boom. Now we have the second side. Same song and dance. Just let the blooms commence. Or hyperblooms, I guess, in this case, eh? A little bit of switch action here. Get some extra blooms to proc the hyper blooms. Come on down. Might have missed a couple of people there. That's all right. Use you know, the elemental bursts for a little bit of invincibility frames. A little bit of block action. Reapply. Little Hyperbloom. No, don't do it. Oh, no, we wasted like a fraction of a second there. Okay, that's fine. Get back over here. Some rain swords in here. Rude. Reactivate, little block, reapply. Rude. It's okay though. These guys do not like to go down easily. No, sir. Rain swords and Kuki Shinobu though. Fine. We'll go back to the Xingqiu after this. Reapply, reapply. You got me in the corner. It's okay though. Take this time here to regenerate a little bit of health. Good to go. Moving on in. Those guys, those beasts, man, was a little sloppy in our part, but we're pretty healthy still. Same song and dance here. Activate our little area. Quickly heal back up. Proc some additional. Hyperbloom. A little early on the swap, but it's okay. Reapply this and then get ready to go back into little overkill, but hey, you know what? And they're here. This is exactly what we want to see. Reapply that. Go into this. Ouch, rude. Heal up, detonate. Heal up once again. Watch out for the bubbles. Run over to our friend hanging out over here on the sidelines, apparently. And boom. Try to save our stuff. Good to go. Now we have the Magu Kenki brothers. Hopefully they'll be a little more cooperative. Applying our elements. The damage that we have from Hyperbloom is just ridiculous. My other team is like a fully invested Hyper Raiden team, and I think it's worse than this by a fair amount. Oh, hopefully I didn't. Okay. I thought it was a possibility that we got a little wrecked there. And these guys are gone. It's over. Absolutely destroyed. So if you've been trying Hyperbloom, let me know what you think about these options down below. Which Hyperbloom team have you been using the most? We've had access to good characters like Farina as well as Mulani. In the future, we're gonna have even more characters for some Hyperbloom madness. Let me know what you are using down there. Subscribe for more, obviously, and I'll see you guys in the next one.